aka you're attending. So yeah, don't ever do that, and definitely don't say that in your interview if you want to get into PA school. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are returning, thank you. For those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Brianna, aka Dollface PA. I can be found on Instagram or Twitter at Brianna Moore. Always available and willing to help. You can always DM me, message me on Twitter, or email me. My email is down in the description box below. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. So one of the things I love the most about y'all emailing me and always hitting me up on social media is that it really does direct me in the direction of what I should be talking about on my channel. Because a lot of times, as I was saying in my last video, I really do start to see a common theme of people asking me the same questions. And I'm like, ooh, maybe I should make a video on that to help them, because obviously a lot of them have the same question. So today's video is going to be tips for your interview. And I briefly touched on this in another video that I made way back when I first started my channel. But I want to be very specific in this video about questions you must have strong answers to in order to do well and to excel in your PA school interview. And I'm gonna just go ahead and give y'all a gold mine, because if you have a strong answer to all of these questions, you will do good in your interview. You will do well in your interview. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because every question you get asked is gonna be some variation of the questions that I'm getting ready to give you. So no matter how they ask it, the root of the question, they're still asking the same question. So if you have a strong answer prepared, you can kind of just tailor your answer to what they're asking, because the answer doesn't change. It's just maybe the way that you verbalize it that may be a little bit different. So let's get straight into it. Of course, the number one question you have to have an answer to is, tell me about yourself. And that is such a vague question. Honestly, I hate that question, but you have to have a strong answer. The first thing you need to ask yourself when you're sitting down to write out your interview prep answers is, what do you want them to know about you? What do you want them to know about you? You want them to know that you received a bachelor's of science at XYZ University. You want them to know that you worked as an EMT for this many years. Tell them what they want to hear. They don't care what you like to do in your free time, and there will be a question for that. We'll get to that in a little while, but in the tell me about yourself question, go straight for the gusto. Tell them what they want to hear. Start speaking towards your past education. Start speaking towards your past direct patient care experience hours. Start speaking towards, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Start speaking towards how you plan to get through this program, because you know it's going to be rigorous. Start speaking like that. And they'll already know that you are very prepared for this interview when they start hearing you say things like, you know, I went to XYZ University where I received this. I worked as an EMT for this many years. I'm really looking forward to starting this program, as I know it will be a very difficult program, but thankfully I have family nearby, which will be a strong support system, which will support me during this time, because I know this is a rigorous program, XYZ. When you start talking like that, I've sat on the interview board for Eastern Virginia Medical School Physician Assistant Program before, and I can tell you as a former interviewer, when the interviewee starts to talk like that, I'm like, she means business. She means business. Start writing on the scorecard, because this girl, she's serious about PA school. So that's number one. This next question is going to be asked to you in some form or fashion, or some variation of this question is going to be asked. Why do you want to be a PA? You have to come up with a reason. Do not say anything about, oh, the schooling is shorter than MD, because then it looks like you're trying to take the easy way out, which is honestly an uninformed statement, because there's nothing easy about PA school. Yes, it is shorter chronologically in time than going to medical school, but there's nothing easy about PA school. So that's not even a true and factual statement when people say that. But say why the physician assistant field is a good fit for you. I'm eager to start my career. It allows me to do so in a time frame that's conducive with the timeline that I see for my life. Give mature answers like that. That's what they want to hear. They may ask another variation of this question: what challenges do you see associated with becoming a PA? You have to have an answer for that. Whatever that looks like for you. Like, I'm not going to give you all the answers that I said, but you have to sit down, and they want to hear mature answers. They want to hear answers that are well thought out. They want to hear answers that have depth to them, not anything shallow. And so you can be honest, but just make sure that you're keeping the perspective of, I need to be saying answers that is going to convince this interviewer that I'm going to be a good PA and that I'm going to be able to finish the program. They may ask you a question like, what is the number one problem PAs face today? We face a lot of problems, but the deeper question in all of these, they're trying to see, do you even really know what a PA is? Because if you really know what a PA is and you really have done your research on the field, you should be able to answer these questions. I mean, one that is very well known that most people know about, a lot of people don't really know what a physician assistant is. And so maybe, in my opinion, the number one problem in the physician assistant field as it stands right now is just a lack of patient understanding of the role and responsibilities and the scope of our practice, which is why the whole topic of changing our name to physician associate has been such a big thing for such a while, because the connotation associated with associate is much different from assistant, which oftentimes leaves patients to believe that we're just medical assistants or something like that. You could give an answer like that. I'm actually giving y'all answers, but there will be some variation of that question. What challenges do you see associated with the physician assistant field? What is the number one problem in the physician assistant field? Why do you want to be a PA? What is a PA? You need to have a solid answer. What is a PA? And they will ask you, what is the difference between a physician assistant and a nurse practitioner? They will ask you that. So you need to know the answer to that question, and it needs to be solid. What is the difference between a physician assistant and a doctor? All of those things you have to know the answer to, and they're very Googleable, so it shouldn't be difficult for you to come up with a strong answer for those questions. You need to know everything about the program you are interviewing for. They're going to ask you, why do you want to be a part of this program? What about this program captivated you and even made you want to apply? You need to know specific things about that program. You can say, oh, well, I'm aware that for the last 5 years, your program has had a 100% pass rate, first-time PANCE takers, and that is a very important metric to me because I am very, very committed to passing the PANCE the first time I take it. And so I want to be a part of a program that I know is going to prepare me well enough to do that. Say something like that, or talk about what resources or what's specific to that program do they offer that other programs don't offer. You need to be able to speak very specifically to the program that you're applying to, because they want to know that you know what you're getting yourself into, why should we select you? We had 2,000 applicants. We're only selecting 60 people. Why should we select you? Do you even know about us? They're definitely going to ask you in some way, how do you manage stress? They may say, what do you do to decompress? Or how do you respond in stressful situations? What they're really trying to see is how you plan to cope over the next 2.5 years or however long your program is. How do you plan to cope with the stresses of this program? Because the program is unbelievably stressful, right? I'm going to not sugarcoat that. And they want to know that you're not a person that is so, what's the word that I'm looking for? So unable to cope with stress in a healthy way that you won't be able to finish the program. So start talking about your support system, your family, your friends, whatever your support system looks like. Now is a good time to start talking about the things that you like to do in your free time, whether that's exercising, yoga. Start speaking towards every positive coping mechanism that you have. whether that's doing art in your free time, whether that's writing, reading, listening to music, making music. This is where you speak to those things, and you can tell them, these are the things that keep me balanced. These are the things that keep me grounded. And this is how I de-stress after a long day. If I have 10 minutes of reading or writing in my journal, I feel recentered. I feel better. Speak to those things. They will ask you a lot of scenario questions, so be ready for those. Describe a situation where you failed. They love that question. And what they're really trying to see is, one, how did you respond? And two, how did you overcome, and or what did you learn from it? So you can say, there was a time where I failed a biology test and I was very disappointed in myself. But you know what? I had to be insightful and step back. And I realized that I had committed to too many things. I had overcommitted myself, which essentially took time away from my studying, and that is why I did not perform as well as I wanted to. So I made some adjustments. I pulled back on some of my commitments so that I could dedicate the time needed to focus on my studies, and I noticed an improvement in my grade. It's a process. They're trying to see, how do you handle failure? How do you handle rejection? How do you handle challenging situations? And you have to give scenarios of, you have to be able to give a story or a scenario or a situation where that was demonstrated. So definitely have stories like that ready. Another scenario question they love: tell me about a time you had a disagreement with a colleague and or a superior, and how did you handle that? They want to see, how do you handle tension in interpersonal relationships, because that's important. That is important. They want to know, how do you navigate interpersonal relationships? So tell them what happened. They want to see that you are able to maturely, I would say something to the effect of, I validated that person's opinion and I understood where they were coming from. We ultimately agreed to disagree, or whatever the situation may be, or the question may be, how do you work with challenging people? One of the best answers to ever give in that scenario, when you're asked that question, is you can say, though I may not agree with everything that person does or thinks, I recognize that person has strengths, and they still add value to our team as a person. And in focusing on their strengths, it allows me to more easily overlook the things that I don't agree with or the things I don't necessarily like about them. And ultimately, we're still able to work together in a productive way. Y'all, I'm dropping gems over here. Y'all need to get y'all notebook. I'm telling you, these are the types of answers they're looking for. Okay. I'm really, really trying to give y'all the cheat code. This is it. And honestly, all of these questions that I'm giving you are if you go on Google right now and type in PA school interview questions, there's so many links that will come up, the top 100 questions. These are them. These are the questions that I'm giving you. I'm just telling you how to answer them. These are very, very generic questions that you see all the time when you are interviewing for PA school. And if you have multiple interviews, you will have a lot of these same questions, honestly. Another scenario question they love is, name a time where you were asked to do something that you were not supposed to do. By a superior. So your manager asked you to do something that you weren't supposed to do. And how did you handle that situation? The question that they're really asking you here, they're really testing your boundaries. They're trying to see how well you uphold your boundaries. And y'all, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care what the truth is. For the purposes of this question, you need to tell them that you told that person that what they're asking you to do is outside of the scope of your practice or the scope of your role, and that you do not feel comfortable doing what they are asking you to do. That's the answer to the question. I'm giving y'all the answers to the test. That's the answer to the question. That's the answer they're looking for. You can't say, I know I wasn't supposed to do it, but they're my manager, so I did it anyways. X, red X, you're not getting in the program. They hate questions like that. Because what happens when you're a physician assistant and you get asked to do something that could be life or death for a patient? That's character. They're trying to make sure that you have the character to not overstep that boundary and doing something just because somebody in a higher position is asking you to do it, aka you're attending. So yeah, don't ever do that, and definitely don't say that in your interview if you want to get into PA school. Another boundaries question that they like to ask is, you're a physician assistant and your sister's husband is one of your patients and he comes in and he tests positive for HIV and your sister doesn't know it. Are you going to tell your sister? The answer is absolutely not. That is HIPAA. That's HIPAA. That's another boundary that they're trying to see if you are going to violate that boundary. God forbid if that situation were to ever happen, would it be very challenging and difficult to not tell your own sister? Of course, but you can't. You cannot. You can't. And so that's another boundaries question they like to ask. I'm going to put a whole bunch of links down in the bottom for just practice questions. Just come up with great answers. Come up with solid, mature, well thought out answers. And if you want to run some of these answers by me just to get my opinion on whether or not I think they're strong answers, please email them to me. I really love helping you guys with this. The last thing, they're always going to ask you, do you have questions? Absolutely have at least 2 questions. Same like with the job interview. You want to ask them questions because it shows genuine interest. Come up with 2 questions. I don't care what they are. Just ask them 2 questions. Another trick question that they always like to do is, was there any question that you thought you were going to get asked today that you didn't get asked? And a lot of times people will be like, oh yeah, I thought you were going to ask me XYZ. And then they'll say, okay, and they'll turn around and they'll ask you the question that you just said. So make sure you have an answer ready to whatever question that you say you thought you were going to be asked. Also, if there's anything going on in the news at the time surrounding healthcare providers or physician assistants or mid-level providers specifically, make sure you know about that. They may ask you questions about that. If there's any new legislation, they may ask you about the name change. You really should look into that so you have a solid understanding and you're ready to answer these questions. Y'all, this video would be an hour long if I went through every single question and every single answer that you and every single element that you should include in your answer to these questions. So I'm going to stop here. I think these are probably the most high yield questions that you will be asked, and if you have solid answers, you should be able to tweak them as needed to answer whatever question you're asked. You really should be able to. Again, if you want any help, please feel free to reach out to me. Please be patient with me. I receive so many emails from you guys, and I really give it my heart and soul when I am responding to you guys. So if I'm really busy with work, it may take a couple of days for me to respond, but I promise I will respond because I always respond. So thank you guys for watching. God bless you all, and I wish you all the best of luck. And go out there and be great, and go out there and kill your interview. Bye.